One sunshine good morning to all of you. This morning, I'll be going to learn about one of the diversities in Guyana. And guess what that is? It's Creolese. You know, in Abby home, Abby would find a mixture of English and Creolese. However, we want the best for our children. So from the time they are born, we teach them English. But because it takes a society to raise a child, you would find our children will go to their auntie, uncle, and their grandparents. And their grandparents, they know their Creolese. So when them children come home back, you're going to find how fluent they flow with the Creolese. However, we encourages our children in our home to speak English, but me can hear them at the backyard when they play. Because you're going to hear them by me say throw a ball, yeah. Or me say sit down. Yes, when it comes to our school, churches, and our workplaces, in a formal setting, standard English. But there are times in order to drive over a point or to get the attention of the audience based on the setting, you would hear Creolese. Let's take, for example, the church. You're going to hear the pastor say, you got to trust God. Take your burdens to the Lord. Not give up now. God got a plan for you. Watch how God gonna work it out. In our work setting, when it's an informal lunchtime conversation or a chit and chat, you find the Creolese, a mixture of the English and Creolese. At school, there are times to get the students' attention, and there are times in order to drive home a point or for reinforcement. You have to use the Creolese because it's the only language your children understand. By me say sit down, yeah. That is what he understands or she understands. Also, you would find language, bridge, it brings out our rich culture. It tells the history and it strengthens unity because it helps to a person to express themselves freely. I remember as a child growing up, even as an adult at University of Guyana, I am fearful to speak out. Why? Because I know I have the mixture within me, Creolese and English. I think at the University of Guyana, students should be given an opportunity whereby they can express themselves freely with a language that their use is. ENG 1105 has taught me to embrace Creolese, that it's a language and it's accepted. However, I think for our policy makers that they should so structure or tailor the policy and integrate it into our educational system, whereas Creolese is not seen as bad because people are of the perception that if you don't speak English, it means you're not educated, you are not knowledgeable. And I think that concept of persons should be removed. Don't judge people. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Before we continue or ask you any questions, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Janine Wong and I'm pursuing a summer course in ENG 1105 and I am here to let you know about my English experience in Guyana or in my community, Kupwan. Imagine a country where the way we speak can change depending on where we are, who we talk to, and who we talking about. So I must say welcome to my space.
All right, thank you very much for your introduction. So tell me, what are the languages spoken at home and by whom?
When I was small, we used to speak or talk broken English, that is Creolese. And I found that when my father was at home, he used to instill in us speaking standard English. However, when he's not around, when he gone to work, we just adapt to Creolese. And my mother used to allow us to speak broken English.
All right, so the second question. What languages do you hear outside the home and workplace? And what are attitudes to those language like outside of that area?
All right, as I said before, we would normally speak Creolese when at home. But when I am not at home, we would normally, in social and friendly gathering, we would speak Creolese too. Unless it's necessary, we would speak standard English in meetings or while we're doing presentations. But when I'm teaching, sometimes some students do not understand what I'm saying. Let me share an experience. I was sharing and teaching and so on about the content of a particular subject and topic, and after doing evaluation, a child didn't understand nothing. And I explained about 2 more times and this child still didn't understand, so I had to speak his language and then he understood.
Go.
Okay, my challenges faced during me pursuing the university was I was so afraid of speaking or doing any activity in the class because of my broken English. But because I understand now what it takes, and because of appreciating my language in my country, in my own space, I feel comfortable. And I would recommend that the university implement this language clearly into the curriculum.
Greetings, Karim Trotman here, and this is my take on language awareness in Guyana. Now, I grew up as a child in a home with a dad who was a journalist. Very strong individual where the use of language is concerned. And I remember using the dictionary at 7, learning to use the dictionary, finding words, using the student's companion by age 10. So the early readings I did, joined the library at 8. So the early readings I did grounded me in language, basically. I had a wide vocabulary. And growing up in that type of family would have given me confidence at a very early age in terms of, my use of language and being able to consciously code switch, because Creolese was also used in my home, as in many other homes. But in my home, Creolese was not something that was frowned upon, because I was taught that it's a language by itself and it's the language of our ancestors. So it's something we need to embrace. In my home today, with my early teachings and indoctrination, I would have done the same, because my children are encouraged to use Creolese, and also I encourage them and would always remind them in terms of the usage and importance of proper grammar in terms of your verbs and using them in the right way, subject and verb agreement. So when you have a grounded education and experience with the language, I think it's easy to consciously code switch, because that happens a lot in my home. And sometimes as a parent, I would have to get down into the Creoles for emphasis. Just like at my workplace, being a teacher, it's something that I think is necessary, because there are things like hearing teachers telling students, by like stick breaking your ears, something coming for you, you hold on. Things like that, where teachers now have to admonish, but they would do it in Creolese. Whereas while they're teaching their lesson, I think 80% of the time they would be using formal English. But there are parts of the lessons that need that emphasis and need that level of creativity, and need the children to be brought to a point where they could understand what's happening. And I think it's used to emphasize and give a visual or a closer understanding of what is being discussed or presented. So at the workplace, I would hear teachers consciously code switching, while myself and others unconsciously code switch, because sometimes you react to a certain situation in the class and it would be in Creolese, and then after you tend to look back, you reflect, and you say, wow, I didn't expect I would have said it that way, but that's just who we are. So within our communities, within our workspaces, Creolese is a language used, but I guess when we were interacting formally, the English would kick in. In terms of ENG 1105, I am quite happy that I'm in the class, because with my early foundation, I have the opportunity to build on that, and also build my confidence in terms of the academic writing and the academic use of language, and being able to learn that and apply it where needed. However, I think there should be greater embracing and acknowledgement of the use of Creolese in our teachings and also in our interactions. We should be encouraged to interact in a language we're comfortable with, because it's very important that we are able to understand each other and be able to understand what's being delivered to us, the content, and be able to express ourselves meaningfully. As a nation, I think we also need to change the stigma attached with Creolese, because it's a language of our ancestors, and it has tremendous historical and cultural significance, because that's what our ancestors used to communicate and build this country, form communities, and develop their livelihoods. So it's critical also for us to understand that and know that it's a part of who we are, and we should not be ashamed of it. Thank you.